Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the Star Wars Legion Clone Wars core set and some hidden clues that it has about possible future units. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So if you look at the Star Wars Legion Clone Wars core set, obviously you're drawn to clones and you're drawn to General Grievous, who's pretty much the centerpiece, and you're drawn to all the battle droids that are fighting in. Looks a lot like the Battle of Kamino, except Grievous wasn't there, so very similar to the Battle of Kamino. But if we look a little bit closer, we can potentially get some hints as to future things. Now, I point this out because if we go back to the original core set, everything that we saw on this came out in the game. Now, granted, this one was a little less populated, but obviously Vader and the Stormtroopers, and these are pretty much the standard Rebel troopers, and it's pretty much just Stormtroopers versus Rebel troopers. But if you look kind of in the distance, you can see the ATSTs that are on there. Those also did eventually come out in the first, at the same time as the core set did, but those were not even part of the core set, which is interesting because, they kind of tend to show a lot of stuff that usually will come in the core set. But here you can see that there is ATSTs in the background. So when we go to here, we can see a lot of stuff. Now there are also capital ships in the sky. I'm pretty sure we're not getting capital ships, but also if you look on what you can see from the side and the top, is also the same cover art that we're going to be seeing. What looks to be on the clone troopers and the B1 battle droids. So first thing is, I think you may have noticed, is you've got a super battle droid here. So I think that's pretty cool that we're seeing them, and they're kind of like right in the middle, right? They're like right in the front. So I think this is a hint that we're going to be seeing super battle droids show up. Whether there will be special forces or not is a tougher one, because they were definitely a lot tougher than the B1 battle droids. They were actually very effective. And they could be core, but I think if they were core, they'd have to be more of an expensive core, like significantly expensive. So and that could be a good contrast. Maybe you want cheap core, maybe you want expensive core, and you want a thing between them. But I could see them also easily being special forces. I feel like they were also mass produced, so maybe the special forces isn't the best fit for them. But if not, what would be maybe Night Sisters? It's like a tougher. Special forces is a little more tricky for me, especially. You could maybe say support, because you do have your droidicas, which you can see up there also. And that's the other thing. You're seeing a lot more units on this one. You can see Bark 1 speeder bikes up there. You can see droidicas over there with the shields going on, which is also very, very cool. I'm also curious if somebody will end up making some home-brewed shields that can go over the droidicas, which will look kind of cool. I'd be interested to see that. But so also, if you haven't noticed, it's kind of a sleeper, but it's also pretty big in center stage, is the this giant spider droid right behind Grievous. Now, I believe this is the OG9 spider droid, and I think it's perfect for Legion. I think it's perfect. This will probably be a heavy, though. I mean, it's obviously big enough to kind of take the place of maybe an ATST. It makes definite sense that it would be a heavy. It's right there behind Grievous as well, and if they're going to hold true to not having something on the cover that doesn't come with the game, then this would probably be a shoo-in. However, I think the fact that we're seeing capital ships in the sky is kind of evident that we're not going to necessarily get everything, but I think that much is obvious. I think everything else is definitely a possibility. So we have these guys. We also have, if you look a little bit farther away, you can see the tanks from Episode 1. Well, I think they were in a lot of things, but they were definitely all over the Clone Wars for 2. I believe this is an AAT-1 hover tank. It's hard to see I don't know if there's multiple, if there's an AAT-2 and an AAT-3 and all that other stuff. But a quick Google search says the AAT-1, right? But the AATs, these absolutely, I think we all kind of expected that these would show up, but they are there. They're kind of in the distance. So if we go back a little bit, you can see right under the L and Legion, you can see it's up there. I think there's actually 2 of them. So you can see that there's tanks in the background. So which will be the heavy. Maybe the tanks would almost have to be heavy. So maybe the spider droid would end up being a support, or maybe they'll have two heavies. Maybe the separatists will have multiple heavies relatively early in the game. That's another possibility. This almost makes me think like we're gonna have this huge launch wave with everything that we're gonna see here. Just because that's how it went with the other one. Or rather, if we go back to the core set, while we didn't get ATSTs in the core set, they were part of that launch wave. So that's also pretty interesting. Another thing that is, I think, a little bit less likely but possible, is our transports. I feel like the LAAT is gonna have to find its way into some game, and there clearly is mechanisms for them to work in this game. We've already got transport rules. We've already got repulsor vehicles, right? We've already got open and closed transport. This one could be honestly, it could go either way. It could be open or closed. I could see this one being a closed transport, though, which would be kind of cool. And this, if you look closely, there's something else above it. I'm not sure what that is. Let me know in the comments below what you think is, just like right next to this thing. I don't know if it was just another, like maybe a badly drawn LAAT, because it definitely doesn't look like a LAAT. It looks like there's something else. I don't know if it's a different type of transport, but the LAAT gunship, right there, is definitely a something that people want to see. My fear with this game, though, is that it might be too big. It might be a little bit too big to fit on your battlefield. Now, it could be that they have said, all right, since we're doing a Super Star Destroyer for Armada, we can now make bigger boxes. We can now, have bigger molds. And it'll probably be easier to do something like this anyway because you're going to be building it yourself. So they don't have to assemble and paint this whole thing in order for you to get it. I think something like this would be a marvelous centerpiece for a build. Maybe Grand Army only, maybe, I think something like that. Or maybe you just make it probably Grand Army only. Like maybe if you make this thing 400 points, then it'll probably have to be Grand Army only. Nobody would take it into a tournament. And honestly, for me personally, I'm totally okay with not everything being, tournament necessary. I'm okay with there being some units that are there for fun or for more casual games. I'm absolutely okay with not everything being ultra competitive. I do want the game for the most part balanced to work in a tournament environment, but I'm okay with them doing some for fun units once in a while because I usually play for fun. I'm not a really heavy tournament goer, and so because of that, I would love to see something like this. This would just make for really fun battle reports, and even if you don't use it as a unit, you could still have it deployed. This could also be a terrain piece too. It could be maybe an objective that you start, like your guys are all getting off of it and it's already landed, and you have it. I mean, like in Star Wars Battlefront 2, they have these, and you're getting inside of them and walking through them and things like that. That's actually not too uncommon. So let me know if you think this is going to be too big to work in Star Wars Legion, or do you think that they can make it happen? It would definitely be flying, is what I imagine. It'd be really cool if it was flying, or it'd be cool also if it had a base that could allow it to land or take off, and maybe that would be its whole turn. Maybe that would be the drawback of playing it. Maybe it takes 2 full moves to land and to take off because it's slow. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things you could do with something like this. I don't know if it's really necessary in the small battlefield space that we've got, but and since the transport has a number too, this could be like closed transport 3. Maybe you start all 3 of your core clone troopers or something on there, and then you land and it lands and takes off. So the other thing is we do also see them on the back of the Phase 1 clone troopers. It also looks like there's an ATTE down there on the ground behind them shooting, which is cool because this is the same artwork is kind of also on the side of the core set. So we've got an ATTE also. We've got LAATs in the sky. Looks pretty cool. And from this angle, they almost look like a Cylon, a Cylon Raider. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting You know, it's not, but like that is kind of cool. I kind of never noticed that. I just thought about that just now. But you know, so you do see LAATs in multiple pieces of art, so it's definitely a possibility, and I know the fans really want it. They might show up in X-Wing at some point, but I mean, they're mostly an atmospheric craft, so I feel like they should work. And then again, with the spider tanks, we see those. It looks like that in the background of the battle droid. So I definitely think spider tanks are absolutely going to happen. We saw ATSTs here pretty prominently in the background. We see that spider tank pretty prominently in the background here. The LAAT and the AAT, a little bit less likely, but I mean the fact that they're on here means I think that it's definitely going to happen. So let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you agree with any of my predictions, or do you not agree with them? Do you think that the fact that we also see capital ships on here means no way? Just because you see it on here, it doesn't mean anything. I think it usually does. And here's the thing: FFG has a lot of times spoiled future stuff in the background art, but not always. So that isn't always a rule, but it has been a rule at least on game covers, or especially core set covers. If something's on the cover, usually means we're getting it. And there's a lot of stuff on the cover here. Alright guys, that's all I got for you today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank my patrons as well. Look for new giveaways. There's some Legion promos that are going up on Patreon right now, so you can check out those and let me know if you're interested. Also, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you agree or disagree with any of these in the description below. Do you think that maybe the LAAT is a little bit too big for Star Wars Legion, or is nothing too big? Do you even want to see AT-ATs, which I totally do, even if they're only terrain? Like I use an AT-AT in a lot of my battle reports as well, because I think it makes for great terrain, especially if it's just unmanned. You know, you could even house rule it and homebrew it to make it potentially be operational. Like maybe somebody got in there and it's just a gunner but no driver. This way you don't have to worry about moving it. You know, there's all kinds of different things, different ways you can do it. But anyway, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.